class today?
Yes.
Awesome. So as Sarah said, my name is Brian. I will give you guys an opportunity to introduce yourselves as well as we go through. Just for the sake of time, because we've got a ton of content to cover, I'll probably just ask your names as I call on you and as we have questions. This is not intended to be a one-way conversation by any means. I want this to be interactive. As Sarah said, I have a background in human resources and professional facilitation. You can tell because I use whiteboards and PowerPoints and stuff. I apologize in advance. It's not going to be a training video like some of you guys have gone through, but that is still a hat that I like to put on. So, first of all, I wanted to cover some initial expectations for today based on the content, and I wanted to get an opportunity for you to influence the learning environment. I have done a lot of instruction, and I've been in a lot of instruction, and one of my pet peeves is for me not to be involved in the learning process, okay, when I'm on your end. So just to alleviate that, I want to know what you guys want to get out of today. We're here until about 4 o'clock, so, you know, other than our initial ones, which I added in lead gen, we've got a section for lead generating. I am actually going to make you guys lead generate. It's a huge, huge part of the business. If you just sit there and you do the whole phone scroll thing where you just look for somebody that, you know, you actually want to call, be prepared. I may just come by and hit send on whichever one's in front of it, okay? So, not to spook you guys, okay? That is the number one way to get out of the business is to not lead generate, okay? I mean, you can be the best agent in the world. You can know all of this content front to back, but if you can't get in front of people, it really doesn't do you a bit of good, okay? So I will actually have you guys lead gen today. Yep.
I could be wrong on this, but I thought that they had condensed the classes down from a 1 to 3.
Was it 1 to 3?
Yeah.
Okay then.
Just so you know.
Thank you. Yeah. I can roll with that.
Okay.
Okay. I had 1 to 3 on my calendar, but it said 1 to 3 in the content, so or 1 to 4. Okay, that's cool. Thank you for the tip. Okay. In that case, we will probably lead gen a little bit less, but I'll still have you guys make some calls. I'll be making some calls myself. So, sound good? Okay. Yeah, I think we shifted it because most people should be lead gen in the morning, right? So, how's your lead gen been going? We'll start with that. Okay, honest answer like that. What was your name?
Molly.
Molly, thank you, Molly. So
yeah.
what does Ann
I think
need?
my biggest struggle is just that working another job. You know, I work from pretty standard hours, 9 to, or more like 8:30 to 4. So by the time I have 2 kids, a husband, by the time I get home, you know, we're kind of doing dinner and all that. And I have tried to call in the afternoon, and people are not happy, you know. So I think if I can try to maybe manipulate, you know, exactly who I'm calling, or I don't know, somehow figure out that maybe not the expired's that exact day, maybe the expired's 30 days ago, you know.
Gotcha.
So that's, yeah, I think my biggest struggle there is just trying to find time for it. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that knowledge. So show of hands, who has this as their second career, still has another job right now? So you get started. Okay, so a few of you. Okay. Who's full-time, both feet in, and terrified right now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, okay. And then there's a few that are not terrified, that are full feet in. Okay, awesome. Okay. So, you know, we'll call it what it is, right? So, what I would think for you, for those of you that are finding issues with timing, think about some ways that you can lead generate and maximize your time, okay? I do a ton of lead generation with events. You know, you can go on Facebook, community calendars. I mean, you can spend 2 hours and make, you know, 100, 150 contacts easy, okay? And it's a way that you can still participate fully in the business while being sensitive to the time, okay? Now, that's not ideal. I know, obviously, you want that regular, everyday communication, which you can still do, right? But if you're having trouble getting your, what is it, 10 a day that you guys are shooting for a night? If you're having trouble getting that 10 a day, maybe a weekend event or an evening event once a week, you know. Last week I was at Burgers, Brats, and Beers. There was an event at one of the breweries, you know. You can go to the farmer's market and pass out cards, right? There's all different kinds of things that you can do to get in front of people. Open houses are also a great way to lead generate. That's solid 2 hours. So I would say think about some other ways that you can lead generate as well. Patty, what you got?
Halloween's coming up.
Halloween.
We got the trunk and treats.
Trunk and treats, yes. Any of you door knockers, do some reverse trick-or-treating, right? Bring candy to them, okay? They'll appreciate that. It'll be an easy in. They'll be smiling right when they answer the door, okay? So I've had a lot of agents do Halloween open houses too,
Yeah.
right? Hold one open on Halloween, dress up, you know, do it right, maybe coordinate with a couple other agents and get some on the same street, okay?
The dollar stores have those, have the big packs of the Halloween bags.
Yeah.
For $1.
They're cheap.
Cheap.
Yeah, so lots of ways that you can lead generate that don't take a ton of time. So if other people are having struggles like Holly, I'd say look at some other ways that you can get those contacts in. Okay.
So you're actually going to events and like either paying to set up a table, or you doing like the Chamber of Commerce things?
Depends on the event. Sometimes I pay and I'll have a booth and all that set up. I know that not everybody has that advantage. We have a big focus on that on our team. So I've got a table and a banner, and I do giveaways and drawings and all that stuff, right? So I've got a process, but it's just a system that you guys can implement for your own business too, if you like. And so that's one way. Some of them don't actually require you to pay for a booth to be able to come to the event. You just have to ask ahead of time. So in Facebook events, that's a great way to find what events are in the area. I mean, there's more in there than you could ever go to. And the cool part is you can see how many people are interested, right? So you can get more bang for your buck. You can know if it's going to be a dud event or not by looking on Facebook to see what kind of traffic is there. So it kind of helps you top grade your time, right? So all different ways that you can lead generate, okay? So I'll give you guys an opportunity to do that for a little bit, and if you guys have questions throughout, we'll talk about that. The three main topics that Ignite wants us to cover as part of the material are finding buyers, qualifying them, and then doing the actual consultation, okay? Now, I am a buyer specialist. All I do is work for buyers, so this is my specialty, okay? It's one of the reasons why I chose to teach this class. If you ask me about sellers, I'll do the best I can, but I'll probably point you to someone else that specializes in that, okay? That's the way that we have our team split up. So, now, what other expectations? Yes, you have a question?
Just a quick question. 'Cause
Yeah.
How long have you been doing this?
About a year and a half.
Okay. Why did you choose to go the buyer's agent role?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Leverage.
Okay.
Leverage. I teach at a real estate school. I work with buyers. My son is actually, he has he's special needs, and so he needs a lot of my time. For me, it was the best way to get into business and operate at a high level while still having the leverage I needed for my family and for the other things I'm doing.
Okay.
And so the people join teams for all different kinds of reasons. That being said, for me personally, on average, a buyer takes about 43 hours to work start to finish. All but about 13 hours of that is leverageable.
Okay.
So I can work with 4 times as many people than I typically would be able to. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm properly leveraged. That all depends on the team, the systems, the models, and the stuff that you have in place. So if the models aren't there, I have to build it myself. And the way that I treat being a team is like a business within a business.
Sure.
So that's me personally, but everybody's different.
Okay.
So does that answer your question?
It does.
What was your name?
My name's Jason.
Jason? Thank you. Good question. Okay.
I have a,
Yeah.
based on what you just told him, I don't understand what you mean by it's leverage. What does that mean?
So that means if I'm a part of a team, I don't have to run my own signs, right? I don't have to worry about marketing. I'm not having to pay for that marketing pieces, but I also, I have someone that, it's time management, right? If you don't have an admin, you are the admin, okay? So as a member of the team, I have an admin on our team that handles a lot of that stuff. Open house
By
prep.
saying leverage, you mean you got someone to help you?
I have, yes, I have multiple people to help.
Did you start out as an independent agent?
I actually started on a team.
You did start on
I did. I knew Mark before I actually got licensed, and so we had a long-term relationship before I got into business. And I knew I wanted to be in business with Mark before I even got my license. So it worked out well. I was fortunate. We pair well together. But what expectations do you guys have for the class, other than those 4 things that we've already addressed? I want you guys to have some input on what we cover.
It's just like keeping your buyers, view like limited, so like you said, it's 43 hours for a buyer
Okay.
versus showing them houses and houses and houses and houses.
Okay.
So like taking their scatterbrain and narrowing that down a little bit. So I don't know if that goes into the qualified process or whatever, but.
Yes. But we're going to talk about some specifics
So
on
I
that
work
too.
with investors
Okay.
strictly.
So that's definitely something that would benefit you. Okay. Well, the approach for that's different for investors than it would be for a typical home buyer. Okay. So I'll do my best as we go through the content to address that. and then at the end, we'll circle around and make sure that I've touched on it, okay? Awesome. I just put it as buyer urgency, okay? Is that something everybody else would benefit from getting some tips on? Okay. What else would you guys like to get out today?
We'll ask as we go.
Awesome. And we can add to this board as we go, okay? This is my HR hat kind of coming out, yeah.
Basically just a comment is,
Yeah.
I spent Saturday in the rain, door knocking apartment buildings.
Okay.
And disastrous results.
Okay.
And I didn't get a single contact in burnt hours doing it. Oops. You know, I even had a lender build me up some flyers to draw, but, I mean, what I run into was, most people wouldn't be there if they could be somewhere else.
True.
And they're like, well, I don't need that because I'm, you know, they're at the bottom of the barrel. They've done what they did and then now they're down here.
Well, you're operating off of a lot of assumptions there, and remind me your name, I know we met. Lonnie. You're operating off of a lot of assumptions, so I would say you don't really know the turnover on a lead gen source until you track it to know your turnover on a lead gen source. So I would say if that hasn't been a good turnover for you, maybe target some other things and track your numbers as you go. Tracking your numbers is a huge piece of your business. In any other major business, right, if you're running a profitable business, they're going to have indicators of performance, okay? You should not view your business any differently. You should track your numbers just like you would if it was a Fortune 5 company, right? So, I mean, and if you get that dialed in, it's really hard to do, right? I have a lot of growth to do that on that as well, right? I track a lot of stuff, but there's more things that I could track. One of our team members has really got it dialed in because all he does is phones. And so he can tell you how many hours he has to be on the phone to set an appointment and how many calls that takes. And there are agents in the office that know how many doors they have to knock to get a listing, right? Because it's all a funnel. So we'll talk about some types of lead gen as we go through. But I would say if it doesn't work for you, that doesn't necessarily mean that it won't work for somebody else. You may just haven't found your best lead gen source. Okay. Yeah.
She said something of, you know, spend hours and hours and hours of showing them houses and houses and houses. How do you cut down on that?
Okay. So that's kind of in the buyer's agency, but we're just going to talk about that when we actually cover the consultation. Okay. That's a lot of this stuff is going to actually come out there. So awesome. All right. You guys ready to go? Cool. So we've gone through expectations. Talked a little bit about, Sarah talked a little bit about the daily 10-4. So how are you guys doing on the daily 10-4? What are you having the most trouble with for those things?
When I call my circle, it just takes me so long because I haven't been here in a while and I sold my business, so I have to go through the whole story. So it's taking me 30 minutes for each phone call.
Gotcha.
So it's just...
So one tip for that is start your call by saying it's for business.
Okay.
And then say, you know, I'd love to schedule a time where we can just catch up or maybe grab coffee, right? And then schedule a time. So that way, if you only have, let's say, 2-3 hours blocked for lead generation, make sure that you're maximizing that time and your contacts per hour by initiating every call that way. You're like, hey, Patty, this is Brian. You know, I hope your family's doing well. This is just a quick call for business. Do you have 2 minutes to chat? Start it with that, so you set the expectation for the length of the call, and then you can get right into your script saying, hey, I'm doing real estate, starting a new business venture. I'd love to know who you know that needs help buying, selling, or investing in real estate, right? So you can get straight to the point. And then if they start to bring in some of those other stuff, just say, oh, it's great chatting with you. We definitely need to catch up. Why don't we set a time next week to grab lunch or coffee? How does that sound? And you can just schedule them out. Okay? Does that make sense? That way you can maximize the actual time when you're doing the lead gen. Is that helpful?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what was your name again?
Liliana.
Liliana.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So what else are you guys struggling with? Yeah.
So I have, when I call people, they go, how did you get my phone number?
Awesome.
And I say, my job is to research and I do it really, really well.
That's a good answer. Awesome.
But they're also not always so happy, so I don't know if any, like, and I say, well, you have a business, you have an LLC, so you want people to call you, and he goes, how do you know my LLC? And I said again, I'm supposed to research, and I did it.
Gotcha.
But I don't know if there's another Cause, they're not on the do not call list,
Okay.
but if there's another
Objection handler for that?
objection handler for that.
Just say, I apologize, I call daily for all of my buyers and sellers to make sure that I'm finding the properties or finding the buyers that they're looking for. That's what you would want in an agent, right? So, you can handle that objection in a multitude of different ways, but that's the one that I found works the best whenever they say, how'd you get my number? Sometimes I'll say, I have a call service, and I apologize. If they're real aggressive, I'll say, I apologize. I'm not showing you on the do not call list. Is that something that you need to update? I'd be happy to give you a resource. And you can do that too, if they really just want you off the phone. But you can kind of gauge it on how you want to handle that.
Which
So.
businesses really wanna be on that do not call list?
They do.
Yeah.
They do. They should. But if they're not, then you can call them. And there's no do not knock list either. You can knock anybody. Okay. You may want to be choosy on what neighborhood you knock in. But.
Even if they're on the do not call list, unless they have that no soliciting sign right out front,
Yep.
you pull up to the door.
Yep. Now, if they have a whole lot of deer horns out there, then, judgment call. Okay. So, how about the thank you notes? Are you guys getting all the thank you notes out?
I love that the best.
Awesome. So, have you had a good experience so far, Leslie? Have you had anybody respond after a note? Awesome.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
It's people I meeting through networking group, and one sent me just oh Leslie, you didn't have to send a note. It was so wonderful. You're wonderful, and it's one of those feel good. And then the other one is just when I'm interacting with people and they acknowledge they've received the card, and I think in a way I hope they're taking me more seriously because they see I'm trying to grow. Does that make sense? And I will openly admit I'm going through a business growing course to grow my business, so I'm getting support there.
If you guys want to maximize on your lead generation efforts, I know it's time consuming to do that, but that out of the stuff in Ignite is one of the most important things that you can do because it absolutely makes an impact. I've had past clients of mine that I'll drip on them, I'll send them an email, I'll leave them a voicemail about a client event, but then the second I send them a card saying Happy Father's Day, they call me and say, hey, how you doing, right? I've got someone that we want you to take care of. It works. It really, really does. So commit to building that habit of doing thank you notes. If you're long-winded like me and you want to personalize absolutely everything and that's a challenge for you, maybe get thank you note 1, thank you note 2, thank you note 3, some generic ones, right? And then you can leave a spot for a personalized message at the end and the name at the top. And you can fill those out while you're sitting watching Netflix and chilling, right? You can just kind of write out. Well, I don't, but you guys might. Or if you're on the call or watching a training video or whatever, right? You can fill that out as you go along. So pre-fill some of that stuff, and you can have them all set aside with an open envelope, like to do is put the address and the name and personal note. So that's one way to do it if you want to keep it handwritten. There are some companies that will do it digitally. I don't personally prefer that. Some agents have had some success with that, but I know when I receive one that's like that, I can tell. So that's not how I write it. But awesome. So you get your previews in? Everybody getting 10 in?
Yeah, 7.
7? Cool. 70%, that's a C. As somebody that I went to school with once said, C equals degree. This is huge too. Make sure that you guys are previewing the market. Do it with a targeted purpose though. My recommendation, pick some in the same subdivision or 2 similar subdivisions. Do it around an open house that you're planning on shadowing or doing. And that will increase your market knowledge. If you just pick 10 random ones, then it's not really allowing you to build yourself into being a market expert. I tell you, and this will come in the consultation, when I sit down in a consultation, I'm able to confidently tell my buyers that sit down with me, I'm a market expert. I view over 100 homes a month in person. And so I know the market, right? So that is how you build that knowledge. And that's great then, because when you're sitting down, somebody tells you what they're looking for, you may have already been in the home. You might be able to say, oh yeah, I was in a home, that'd be great, let me pull it up. You get instant credibility when you do those previews on a regular basis, and you can make that a habit. Okay, do it now, because it will become more and more harder as you get more and more business.
Is there a certain group of people, since there is some danger in going by yourself, is there a certain group of Keller Williams people that go together so that
We've been going together after Ignite.
Mm-hmm. My recommendation, you're all independent contractors. If something is not there that was beneficial to you, create it. Okay, so when I went through Ignite, I paired up with 3 other agents. We each took a week where we scheduled the 10 previews all on the same day, and we rotated. And then all I had to do was show up, jump in the car with somebody else, and we had lunch afterwards. Super easy, right? So I'd say connect with some other people. There's not a standard group that's already set in place. You know, we don't do tours as a brokerage. Some brokerages do. No, that's okay. But I would say, you know, if that's something that's beneficial to a couple other people in class, you guys can partner up and rotate things around to make those previews easier. And then you're also asking, well, what do you think of this house versus that house, right? You're getting some more opinions. Yeah.
So one question, because of the other houses I looked at this weekend were listed by other agencies. So, you know, I called the other agents because rural areas, you know, you have the combination box to get in.
Mm-hmm.
And they want feedback, which is great. But how do you prevent consulting them on their feedback? Because they ask me what I think, and I tell them, and then they get offended because they think I'm insulting.
Be careful what you say.
Well, don't ask me if you don't want to hear it.
Yeah. I don't want to get too far in the weeds on stuff like that, but what I will say is just specify that it's a preview in the feedback. And if they ask for additional feedback on your opinion of price, then you can give it to them. But typically when you're doing market previews like that, you can just indicate in the showing suite or Supra, however they prefer feedback, that it was just for a preview for training purposes. And most of the time they don't have an issue with that. That's why I typically targeted vacant homes whenever I'm going through Ignite, because then you're not disturbing any sellers and the agents won't have issues with that. So that's my recommendation.
You still should contact them, right?
Oh yeah, you should still get feedback. That's a good reason to partner up then, because you know you can swap and say, I'll take these 2, you take those 2, or you're taking all 10 feedbacks this week, I'll take all 10 next week, stuff like that. So awesome. So we got into lead gen. If you guys want to turn in your materials, page 8. We're already at 1:30. Whew. So we're just going to take about 15 minutes, okay? And here's the deal. I did this last time. We'll do it by contacts and appointments. You guys can lead gen for 15 minutes, any source that you would like, okay? The one that gets the most appointments wins. Okay, if you get an appointment, put your name, mark it on the board. We'll sound off and get everybody's contacts, how many people they actually talked to and had a 2-way conversation about the real estate, right? It has to be an actual live person. And then how many appointments you set, okay? And so that means if you choose not to lead generate, I'm still going to make you put your name on the board and you're going to have the zeros. So everybody will know that you're not lead generating. It's only 15 minutes. You'll be okay, okay? And the winner, whoever sets the most appointments and or contacts, the combination of the 2, you will get a free lunch. I'll take you to lunch, my treat, and we can talk about your business. I can give you guys some tips one-on-one. So, I did that last night. I think it worked great. Got everybody calling. Does that sound good to you guys?
No.
No? Okay. You don't have to lead generate. That means you don't get lunch.
The reason I say that is my license just came live and I still haven't gone before the board, so I don't have access to a lot of information.
Well, can you use the script saying, I'm new in real estate still?
Yeah, that's what I opened up to, is my script saying new to real estate.
Yeah. So you can do that even though you don't have access to the information. You can still, I was calling a good month before I actually took my test, letting everybody I knew that I was getting the business.
So just Mets people though?
Yeah, just focus on your Mets. Yeah, if you're not licensed yet, you
so
can focus on your Mets. Yeah, your sphere. Yeah. Okay, so it is right at 1:30. You guys are going to be on the phones until 1:45. And as you get appointments, you guys can check them off. Sound good? All right, let's start calling.
But we can, even if it's a call your spirit, just to call.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. We're building a habit, Leslie.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter who you call as long as you're calling. At least for today.
Cheryl, this is Ileana Owen. How are you? Are you busy right now?
What's up?
Are you working? I'm sorry. Okay, can you talk? Can you talk? Okay, how are you? Good. No, long time no talking to you.
Hey Tammy, it's Andrea, just wanted to check in to see if, you had.
But listen, this is, I won't do this is kind of a business call, but I promise I'm hard to answer. Linda and I are talking about, from the, group going out to dinner.
Send off to the,
So,
I wanted to just
yeah,
call and
listen,
verify.
I sold my business and I became a real estate agent. And I just, so I just wanted to
Just
let you
keep
know
calling
that
everyone in a minute, thanks a lot, Tammy.
loving it. It's a great, fantastic company. And just wanted to ask you if you know somebody who's in real estate, houses, anybody who wants to sell, buy, or invest in real estate. Good. Where are they? Oh my God.
Well,
Nobody's
so,
gonna answer the phone.
last couple of weeks, it's kind of.
I tell you, I saw the pictures, she looks so beautiful. She looks gorgeous. Oh my God, she looks like a model. And I saw the picture from all your boys. All your boys. My God, you think I'm well, she better get busy.
Hey, this is a business call, and of course it's Sandy. Do you have one? I'd like to share some exciting news with you. I moved to Springfield, and I'm sure Keller Williams moved it. And I thought about connecting. I had exciting news on something to get my business.
I would love to just, no one from my service is just showing around. Maybe showing the person
I
that
can share my news, and you can consider it part of my others.
It's free. We're in the
Yeah, I do taxes. Does that sound right? And also, I'd like to ask you and my girlfriend there who's interested in buying or selling a home.
Okay.
One asking, can you get them one right now?
Sure. Okay. All right.
Well, you know what? I can check with her place and time, and you'll just keep an eye on it. I'll get back to you. This is I appreciate you taking that word.
Wherever they go, wherever you are,
How
it shows you all the houses
and
and
find
that
that information about the real estate.
You could be in Florida, I can show you all the
And I'd
houses
love to
or
send it
wherever.
to you.
So I'm gonna
Let me
send
make
it
sure
to
I have your
you.
current email address. See, you're at 220 Trace Drive in St. Oh, okay, let me try that. And that's zip code again, please.
Hey, and anytime you want to go for a meeting, you know.
Okay. And also, if you would do me a favor, consider someone over.
But Brenda told me she's gonna give you
Just keep me in mind.
This is Max.
And after you're done, and I'm gonna try out and send you that so
Thank
much
you so
more.
much.
But thanks for taking the time to visit me now. And please, if there's any.
I know it's been a while since I've been here, but I'll
But, I'll put what I'm going to do. And I've just had a job, so if I get a job, anyone who is there might want to are interested in listing their homes. That if everybody wants to ask, and I'll talk to you in a couple days. Thank you. Bye now.
One thing I will tell you that I liked about that, I don't know if you guys saw this in the picture, but it actually had a hatch access to the crawl space. So you can access it from inside, which is really nice.
If you are interested, maybe in buying or selling a house here in the future, keep my number and give me a call. All right, thank you, Chris.
Did I meet you turning on?
It appeared that they had new downspouts, yes, and everything was in working order. I didn't see any evidence that the water was going back up But of course, we'll have the inspector take a look at that and make sure that's not a concern. I love the house, I think it's super cute. And the updates are really nice. I did get a chance to talk to the seller briefly. He's actually a contractor, so
Hi.
he did all the
I just
flooring.
wanted to let you know this is a training call, a business
He actually did a
call.
really nice job. I've seen
Now,
some
and I
people that
wanted
do
to, I
flooring,
know
that
you
do a
guys
lot
have
of gaps
been
on the
interested in
sides.
listing your home.
All the flooring they did.
And, I did notice your home is for sale.
It's really well.
As a real estate customer service expert, I'd like to keep up with the inventory in this area. So I know what kind of buyers you want. Would you be offended if I came over to
It's
your
not
home?
actually the, their current
Well, that's wonderful. I promise I won't ask you for your listing. And the reason for my call is not to list your home. I would simply like to put your home on my for sale by owner inventory list. Would say today at 3 or 4 o'clock work for you, or I can use my simply say around 9 o'clock in the morning. Would that be better for you? I'm sorry?
Yeah, it was originally,
Durable, okay, and, would you like the email for the apartment as well? We'd like to find both of your home. All right, and let me see, just go ahead and write down your name and address and make sure that everything. If you wouldn't mind, you are. Your name, please?
you did write a note?
Okay, and your wife's name, I like that, you're a little more personal.
If you can send it to me,
And I really have a address, it's 832, right?
and how, if you have a way to scan it.
And then that's Lisa, Missouri. 65614, and my GPS, will that work for me to find me? Perfect, okay. We'll put me on your calendar today. I'll be there around 3 o'clock this afternoon. Okay, I'm excited. Thank you so much. Bye now.
If you can find that, Gene, that's fine. If not, if you can, do you have a camera on your phone? If not, you can take me just a real clear picture. If you just, lay it flat and take a picture right above it, then I can always upload that. I can turn that into a document. So.
Did you? Appreciate that. You want to go for
Yeah, that's okay. It doesn't have to be a long That's always that. So if you can send me that picture.
Juliana?
Yes, you can just text it.
How are you? Are you working?
You're working.
Well, as long as it's clear, I can hear it next to the light.
I will keep you, I will just say,
I'm facetious.
I will sell real estate all Missouri. I'm with Keller Williams. Maybe the kids.
Well, see what you can do about getting that letter to
How are
me,
they?
and then as soon as I get that, I'll include that in the data. And the document should already be in your, email to review, Gene.
Oh, you're still, okay.
You don't see it?
That would be great. You know,
It's gonna be fewer than last time because we won't have to sign the employment documents. Because those we already did, I can still use the ones that were signed last time. And so this one just has the disclosures and the new contract will be used. Everything else in the contract is just like it was on the other one, with the exception of having a fridge included. We did put in the washer and dryer.
listen, it's like,
I added that in there. Because there is a washer and dryer. So
thank you. Well, I guess, I'll get it to go, so,
Just give you some.
I'll keep you in mind, and,
a recent
Thank you.
National Association of Realtors
Bye-bye.
survey found that the homes sold by an agent sell for the average of 13% more than the
Well, there wasn't a fridge when I walked through.
Furthermore, a good agent
And
is
so I'm not
also
sure
going
where
to
they're
save you
keeping
a lot
the
of
food.
trouble with
It's
your
not
knowledge
inside.
of disclosure requirements, sources of financing.
They may just be temporarily away from the fridge, or they may have already moved
Let me
into
tell
another
you
place.
about how my services deliver their homes.
So, but yeah, what the fridge.
Well, you know, there are usually 4 reasons homes don't sell: price, condition, marketing, or the professional needs of the job. However,
Well, I'll let you get to work on that, and let me know whenever you get it. I'll get on it, you know, notify me whenever you can sign everything, and I'll submit it right away. I went ahead and put it in for tomorrow as our response time. So we're gonna give them, you know, till tomorrow to respond. I think I put in
did your
1 o'clock.
previous agent provide great service?
If I remember correctly. It wasn't, I didn't give them a full 24 hours, but, so, because we want you guys to get a response. So,
Just out of curiosity, if you did sell, where were you moving to? Wow. Wow.
I did, yeah, it's all set up to where you can sign, Gene, you just click the view 5 documents like you did last time,
If I could
and
show
then
you
you
what
click the blue button that
would you
says
be
start
interested?
signing, and it'll take you through everything.
You
I'll
see,
get
I
notified.
specialize in getting homes sold that should have sold. Even the best houses don't sell first.
Sure.
And it just takes a new approach and new ideas like I use to get houses sold.
3-minute mark.
When can I stop by and spend 15 minutes with you to show you why so many homeowners choose me to
Hey,
sell?
so anyway, I'm just going to know that it's going to.
Well, that sounds wonderful, and I am available.
Ricky, hi, this is Lydia.
Thursday afternoon or Friday
It
morning.
should,
Which would work best for
take
you?
you right there when you click,
Thanks for taking my
Okay,
call.
you know,
well,
start
we can
signing.
look at, say, 9 o'clock Friday morning, if that would work for you and your husband. Okay.
Oh, it doesn't say start signing?
Let me just verify,
Or
let's
the one that
see
says
that.
view 5 documents?
if you heard that.
Your name
Make
says
it
Jack
so,
and
since
Jane
it's 5
Smith,
documents.
and you live at 1234 East Wells Street, and that's in Springfield, right? Okay. And that's 602 or 682? All right, they were close. All right then. Well, we'll look at 9 o'clock Friday morning, and we can just take a moment to do a walkthrough and we'll get to just look at your home.
I was calling just to say hi, I know this company, so I got a real estate license. And I was reaching out to my
Appreciate it. I'll see you at 9 o'clock Friday. And I said to go to see you.
That should be okay.
Give me a call back, 417-597-2136. Thanks so much.
I'll be watching for them. I should get automatically notified once you get it signed. You're welcome. I'll talk to you guys soon, okay?
All right, talk to you later.
Thanks. Bye-bye. One minute. If you hadn't already wrapped up your calls, go ahead and wrap up. Hey, Mark, I already called you, so we're good. He's reviewing the documents and he's signing right now. 14? 14. But no, that should be good. If you would check on the notification and sign my portion of the document.
Dina?
I think that would be the same to the listing
I'm
agent. All
calling,
that's
I think my friends on Facebook, I'm friends with now. And, I'm in kind of a business building class, and we're reaching out to everyone we know, just to let everybody know we're in business, and to check and see if anybody has,
Okay.
any friends or family members who might be looking to buy or sell a home.
Those of you that are done, that are not wrapping up calls, if you want to step up here, put your name on the board, your contacts and your appointments. I know. If it's 0, you still put your name and put 2 zeros. That's okay.
I appreciate it.
Set an appointment.
And I've got actually another
Oh, I
agent that I
haven't
can
seen
start their kids, Silverbridge.
There's
All our kids out
There's some more markers if you guys need them.
We're in very similar places and we'll kind of get started.
Okay, now, with me, I was calling people, and out of 11, only had 2
Be careful.
Okay, that makes you count. Oh,
It's home, this is a pretty good, I sent you a little, it's a business card, so they have like a card that you need to pass one on.
Is that one possible appointment?
No, is that county direct that?
Well, I always love to send my.
And it's not sounding calendar.
All right, big thing, that's right here. Okay.
I give her that, it's like, oh.
And we're working,
And
You know what, I need to fix
it's like I said, it's looking for.
I'm gonna get the latest
Every
update.
time I come home and tell them, like, I did have one closing and one under contract.
So, that's fantastic.
It's like, the more you tell me about your job, I know you think of it. Does, leave your voicemail,
Unfortunately.
You have such a strong voice.
I'm sorry.
No,
Was I loud?
I know what it was like that. People use that time.
Well, I can't be quiet. People tell me, they're like, shh, my friends were like,
Thank you.
realize there are people right there. But, yeah.
I have a daughter.
The moderate.
What's that, maybe appointment?
Yeah, well, I usually put a loud house, and then
What's that?
I've got 5 kids, so that's not helped the situation at all. So, speak up, exactly.
Her parents are moving from Florida, so that's a maybe.
It is. Yeah, it's kind of awkward right now.
And I did my
Oh, yeah.
this morning, because I did the real, and I'm going to a system right after this.
Just make, sorry, I didn't show it. Make sure you get the I know. There's a learning curve there.
I want to, but I'm trying to do it.
And you know, it doesn't work for you, you can do a card system too.
See, I don't have a
Done
key
that?
yet, so I'm
There's some that still have a no card system. You have the 12 months of the year, and they just write back on the next card, they roll it back to the next time they make a contact. Just gotta figure it out.
To get the campaigns in. I mean, I'm.
That's all right.
Thanks.
well, we need like Friday, it's Friday, and they get some
But I do want to set campaigns.
Ask me about that first.
Okay. You know? We're good. All right, everybody reported out. So let's see what we got. We got 7 contacts with Corey. 3. Oh, tell me about the warm lead.
So one of the gals I talked to was a lady from church, and her parents are going to be moving to this area in spring, and would possibly, she said, and yeah, we'll call you. So,
I've got one too like that.
Awesome.
That
Well,
counts, yeah.
doesn't count as an appointment. It's a good warm, it's a good nurse.
It's a really good one.
It's a solid nurse.
Uh-huh.
yeah, so I like to, can I call you back in a couple months and check in and see where you guys are?
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question, because that's what I was putting in there, possible.
Yeah, no, that doesn't count.
I mean, possible.
No, we're not counting that as an appointment. So,
Okay.
yeah. I know, I can already see the competitor. Some of you are like, does that count? Yeah, no, it's, you can write whatever numbers down when you're tracking your own numbers, but the only one that's gonna lose is you if you don't do it accurately. So decide how you wanna do that, okay? So we got 7 contacts, 3 here, 6, 2, 2, 4, 4. Let's see, 1 and 1 appointment with a lender, Laura.
Yes.
So lender appointment, like, is that like just for talking about new business or talking about?
One is to kind of learn about what they have to offer.
Okay.
Because banks seem to offer so many different personal options.
Awesome.
And then to continue a discussion on how to get this one couple approved.
Gotcha. And then, so Scott had 3. Jason, you had 4 and an appointment?
Yes,
Okay, what's your
Darn
appointment
good.
for? Buyer, seller?
buyer,
Buyer, awesome, great. When's it set?
this Thursday.
This Thursday.
Yeah,
Nice.
6:30.
Wow.
Great, good job.
Good job.
Good job. Yeah. 15 minutes. Okay, so in 15 minutes, let's see, we're at, let's see, 10. Anybody want to math for me? We got 10, 13, 19.
29. That's some wrong side.
44 contacts.
44 contacts. Okay, so we had 44 contacts. And 3 appointments?
Well, one long-term.
Well, 1, yeah, so we'll do 2, really, 2 appointments? Really, one actual buyer appointment and 1's a lender. That's a good appointment set. It's
Yeah.
great to be focused on business partners, but we'll do 1 appointment. So, and so Jason, you just get to let me know where and when.
Okay.
Okay, we'll coordinate a time, and lunch is on me, we can kind of chat about your business.
All right.
Sound good?
Sounds great.
Awesome. So in 15 minutes, you know what price range that buyer's gonna be in? Not sure yet?
Not terribly sure. They sounded like they were gonna be in that, sub 100. So
Okay, gotcha.
It's their first home.
First home? Okay.
Yeah, so they're just tired of renting and.
Well, if we just base it, come on in, Mark, you're fine. Come on. So just based on our average, what's the average commission on our average sales price?
45.
So our average price right now, it changes, right? Some people say 150. It's actually 155 right there, based on the last broker metrics I saw in our market. And so 155, you're talking about what, 4,600 bucks?
Mhm.
So is it worth 15 minutes of lead genning to potentially get 4,600 bucks?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
How I spend the rest of my time isn't nearly as profitable. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, and that's why I'm so adamant about giving this as an example. I know when we go through bold classes, when I went through Ignite, it's always amazing to me what happens when you focus your time, right? There's a bold law for that. It's all, where is it? All work expands to the time allowed. Okay? So if you set a goal for a certain time frame, then you're much more likely to hit it than if you just have an open-ended, right? So I'm going to start lead genning in the morning after coffee or whenever I feel like starting, and I'll stop whenever I stop, right? Is there really going to be a productive, is that really going to be a productive morning? No. So that's a huge part of making sure that you're getting a turn. What you got, Mark?
Oh, just listening.
You need me?
No, you're good.
Oh, cool. This is Mark Stewart, my business partner. Everybody say, "Yay, Mark!" Yeah. Okay. If you need help with listings, he is who I would recommend. You can come to me, and I will point you to Mark. That is his specialty. And if you need help with buyers, he will say, "Call Brian." Okay, that's just how we work. So awesome, great job. Thank you guys for lead genning. That's awesome. Was that hard? Yes.
It
For
was
some of you?
Your tip really helped me. I used
Did it?
and I got to make 3 phone calls.
Great, yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of having 1 hour-long
Oh, yeah.
conversation about
Uh-huh.
the kids and the kids' kids
Right.
and the friends of the kids' kids.
Right,
Yep.
right.
Yep.
That
Thank
did
you.
help.
Yeah, I'm very talkative myself, so that is something that I had to hone in, because I would lead gen for 3 hours and make 3 calls
That's what
because it would take so long. Yeah. So awesome. So now that we've gotten that, we're going to talk about actually getting into finding buyers. Oops. Me talking accidentally answered our Google Voice number. I do not need to answer that call on the class. Sorry about that. So, getting your head in the game. So, finding buyers really is simple. If you guys are following along, if you have page, is this your page or is that your page? 7?
10. Yeah.
Or 10?
10.
10 is correct?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, you guys can see that funnel. right? So buyers are one of the easiest things. They're your fastest source of business when you first get started. Even as an individual agent, you should always be listing focused, right? However, there's great ways to find buyers. They're everywhere. Seriously, you throw a rock in a supermarket, you'll hit a buyer. I promise. You just have to have that courage to actually talk to them, okay? So open houses are a great way to find buyers. You can door knock, you can focus on listings which bring buyers, right? That's why we have a focus on Ignite and through KW focusing on listings. So they're definitely out there. And servicing them is pretty inexpensive, right? Minus gas. If you set the right expectations, you don't show 50 homes to one person, okay? And, like we said, they close quicker. Your typical turnaround for a pre-approved, what I would call a buyer, right? Someone that doesn't have to sell their house to actually purchase a house, right? Doesn't have anything in the way. I mean, you can get them, a couple of weeks, you can get them under contract, and you're getting paid 30 to 45 days out. So you're talking about around a 45 to 60 day turnaround on a buyer lead, a solid buyer lead, versus a listing lead, which could be double that, right? So it's a great source of income when you first get started. So that's what the focus is for today. So the main thing is just learning how to convert those. So we already did some lead gen. We've already talked about that a little bit. But you also want to make sure that you're qualifying those buyers. So asking the right questions whenever you're on the phone is huge, okay? Because there are buyers out there that will eat up your time. And I can't tell you how many people that I got into business with a year and a half ago, went to school with, that are out of business. But they had that one investor that was really going to pay off, right? That they were spending hours and hours and hours. Oh yeah, they're going to buy they said they want to buy 12 houses this year, so I'll be set. And now they're back at their old job. Okay, so make sure that you're qualifying and making sure that it's worth your time. You are worth the time. First of all, identify that. You're worth it, right? And then make sure that you're only working for people that respect your time. Okay, and we'll talk about that as we go through the consultation process and how you can do that. That is really, it's not only it's efficient, it's really a necessity if you want to have a successful buyer business. You really have to make sure that you're qualifying your leads. Okay, so just remember, there's some NAR stats here that are helpful if you guys are following along. I think this is page 11. 88% of buyers purchased their home through a real estate agent. 40% of the buyers found their agent through a referral from family or friends. That's true for my numbers too. This year, year to date, I've closed 28 buyers, and about 45% of them have come from referrals. So either from past clients or business-to-business referrals. So it really is, that trust goes a long way, and most of the time they're not going to be interviewing more than one person. That's more common on the list side. Typically, it's more likely that you'll be in competition for a listing because the client is paying the commission, right? For buyers, the seller is paying the commission. So it's a real easy sell. You just have to show your value, that you can actually represent them in a competent way, and that you have their best interest at heart, and you're honest, and they'll sign with you. They really will. But that's all in the consultation. We'll talk about that in a second, okay? So 12% of buyers used an agent they had used in the past. 9% of buyers found an agent visiting an open house. It's a pretty good turnaround, 9% on open houses. Okay, I've had 9 this year come from open houses. Some of those were listings that I actually got a piece of because I was able to pass to Mark, right? So I'll get the buyer to make a listing. It's one of the best ways that you can get business early out. It doesn't cost you anything. A couple signs, maybe an $8 flag, right? You stand there for 2 hours and people come to you and say, hey, I need a realtor. It's amazing, okay? So if you guys aren't investing some time in open houses, or you haven't done some of the other training we have, I would recommend you do that. We teach a great open house class here where they talk about how to prepare for that open house, how to find it, and I can give you guys some tips towards the end based on the content too, if you guys want tips there. But it's a great source of business for you. It's not mine.
I think it's
Oh, it's tight. It's through the wall. Yeah. So let's brainstorm a little bit. So how else can you guys find buyers? We talked about some of the main sources. Where else can you guys go? Facebook, awesome. Events, right? What else?
Just everywhere.
Everywhere.
Everywhere that you contact, you talk to people.
Yeah. My recommendation: become a creature of habit, right? everybody has their barber, their comic book store if you're me, right? You're a nerd, right? Everybody has, I have had 2 sales of that comic book store. I used to work for Walgreens, and I travel to certain Walgreens. I will find a reason to go buy a Coke when I'm passing one because I know people there. And I'll talk to everybody in there. Like, oh, how's your family? How's it going, right? If you become a creature of habit, then you will start to run into the same people over and over and over again. And then those people, you can remind them every time you see them what you do for a living and ask who they know, okay? When you're at the grocery store, go to the same grocery store. I don't go to Walmart, I go to Murphy's. It's a mom and pop shop. It's the same people that shop there every time, right? Those are my kind of people. So I pick the longest line and I talk the loudest, right? If I have one conversation, then everybody around me is going to know I'm in real estate too, right? So it's all about making sure people know what you do. Become a creature of habit and you will get some business that way too. You can always be lead generated. It doesn't have to be your focus time. I'll tell you what, I don't know exactly how many sales I've had. Well, I do actually. I've had 3 from just passing out cards in random places this year. But I mean, I know I wouldn't give those back, right? So have those business cards. They're cheap. Hand it out everywhere you go.
So you've got 3 out of that. How many cards do you think you've handed out?
Oh, this year, based on how much I order, probably around 2,500 cards so far.
Okay. Is that, so do you go through about 3,000 cards a year? Or?
Yeah, roughly. Okay. Roughly, yeah, about 3 boxes. We line the box about 1,000. So, yeah. I mean, there's other contacts I make that I don't hand out cards, but yeah, I do that a lot.
Since I started here in this class, it's terrible because I see somebody and there's a lady there always taking care of you, and she's so grouchy all the time, and she just went off on me for something, and I thought, I have to be nice to her because she might be buying a house from me, you know, so I have to be nice, I can't say anything.
My wife has thrown food at me because I'll be in the restaurant and I'll overhear a conversation across the restaurant, and they're talking about wanting to sell their house, and I'll say, oh, I'm so sorry to interrupt, I just want to let you know I'm a realtor. How's the pasta? Is it good? Okay, awesome. I'm gonna get that, right? And so, I mean, and waitresses, waiters, I'll write them a note on the receipt and stick a card in there and give them a good tip, right? So, you know, anywhere. I mean, anywhere. It's, you never really know who needs to buy or sell.
Right.
You really don't. I have, my mom, who lives in Arkansas, has a stack of my cards, and I got a referral from her because she was at a restaurant in Arkansas who the waitress's mom was needing to purchase in Springfield. Awesome. Now my mom hands out more cards after that one. So,
That's great.
yeah. So I mean, the business is out there. Just make sure that you're capitalizing every time you have an opportunity for that. Okay. So we talked about some sources. We've got a video here that talks about finding the motivated. So there's a place for you guys to watch the video and take some notes. We're going to switch over to this one. And hopefully the technology will work. That is the buyer needs analysis. We are going for this one. Finding the motivated. Okay. So you guys, everybody got that in your, got a room to take notes there? Awesome.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Pollack, and I'd like to share tips on how to find the motivated. What do I mean by finding motivated? Turning a warm lead into a closed client. The first tip is when you find someone, you want to ask for the business. Let's say you're at a party and your friend is pregnant. You can always say, hey, it looks like you need a bigger house. Or you're out and about and you see this big, beautiful diamond ring and not the full wedding ring. You can say, hey, it looks like you just got engaged. Congratulations. When are you buying your next house? And then I always ask, when are you ready to buy? When are you looking to move into your new house? What are those underlying tips of motivation that will tip you off to having a client that's ready to do business now versus a year from now? Tip number 2, ask for the appointment. Have a calendar or your smartphone ready to say, I have availability tomorrow at 2 or the next day at 4. Which one would work for you? Book the appointment when you meet someone who's ready to do business. Tip number 3, so now you've got the appointment, you want to pre-qualify that appointment by using scripts. Ask questions such as, have you met with the lender that I referred you to the other day? To make sure that they have their price range in mind when they're meeting with you to buy a home, and that you know they're able to sell a home or that they're motivated by a desire to have another outcome, like maybe they're relocating or they're downsizing their home. There has
able to continue forward with the appointment. Tip number 4, use embedded commands. When you get in front of the people face to face at your appointment, you want to be talking embedded command language, such as, when you're comfortable and confident that I can sell your home, then we'll sign the contract tonight. If you're using that language throughout your hour or half an hour appointment, they'll be more comfortable when they get to the end, and they'll sign that contract, and then you can move forward. The last step is you sign them up, and now it's your goal to get a referral. When you're in conversation with them, on the phone, in the car, at the closing, use questions. Who else do you know that's looking to buy a home, sell a house, or invest in real estate that I can call today? If you keep saying this throughout the process, you'll find yourself turning more of your current clients into referral business that will generate lots of easy sales for you. So go out there and find the motivated and have a great day.
Awesome. So, ahas, what stood out to that in that video? What did you guys
Use
write
embedded
down?
commands.
Using embedded commands, okay. Does everybody know what embedded commands are?
No.
That's the first time I've heard that.
That's a language of sales term, okay? The class BOLD that comes, periodically throughout our market center, it talks a lot about embedded commands. We practice those a lot, right? So a lot of it is just powerful statements that talk about the actions that they're taking. You're actually assuming it. So sign with me, and then you can do it on a downswing. So hire me, make a decision, sign the contract, right? Choose me. There's all different examples of embedded commands. Buy a house, sell your house, right? The key with embedded command is it's going to be, you want to pause in front of it, you want to pause after it, because it's a pattern interrupt and it makes them start listing again, okay? And then you want to always operate on a downswing. So you want to start with a higher pitch and go down. Did I cover that enough? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the short version.
It's basically they're saying like when you start low and go high, you're actually asking them a question, so you're questioning if it's actually going to happen. Whereas if you start high and go low, you're telling them it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It was basically a mini course in psychology, I feel like.
It really is, yeah. Yeah, and there's additional training that goes over language of sales and stuff like that. So like, hire me?
Maybe?
Right? That's a whole lot different than hire me, right? It shows confidence, and it actually embeds the commands that you want them to take. Okay? So that's what she was talking about there. I won't get too into that because that's like 8 weeks of all-day classes in BOLD that just covers a lot of that stuff. So if you guys are really looking to explode your business and get a lot of good training and scripts and mindset pieces, BOLD is something that you could consider. It's a next step. I will tell you the accountability is up here. 10 contacts a day is the focus for Ignite. It's 20 a day for BOLD. And so they double the amount. And that's what I do. I mean, that's my focus, is 100 contacts a week. So, which is easy to do once you know how to do it, and you can use those scripts to maximize your time. So,